Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back to part 2 with Alli. Alli additions on all her socials. We had to do a part 2 because we just had so much to talk about. It's wild that this is the first time we're talking to Alli.
Yeah, truly. Because I feel like there's just so much to talk about and this can go on. Maybe we'll do a part 3.
Yeah. Alli, if you didn't have to leave, we'd just keep you here the whole day.
Well, it's so easy to talk to you guys. It feels like we're just meeting over coffee, which is funny because you guys were talking about how hard it is to make friends on other episodes. I'm like, wow, I feel like we're so well aligned.
Yeah.
We're friends now.
I guess we're going to have to be.
Yeah,
we have to be.
Now that you guys have like kind of paused or put a pause on like travel, maybe not as much as you used to.
Yeah.
Do you think that there was like a shift where you had to pivot from branding yourself as a traveler influencer to lifestyle?
1,000%. I think one thing I've done bad that I don't know if all like business people think like this, but there's like things in your head you want to do that you just haven't gotten around to, but they just are like lingering in there.
Percolating.
Yes. There's a few things I've never done with content that I'm like, man, I need to do this. Why haven't I done that yet? Like I've never done an intro video where it's like, hi, I'm Alli. I XYZ. And like, this is why you should follow me. I've never done one of those. And I think things like that. So even when I stopped traveling, I never really like announced it. I just started posting about San Francisco.
Yeah.
So like I showed that we moved back, but I never really caught people up. I just started taking my travel, like when we would go to a new city and I'd do like 5 best things in Madrid or whatever. I just started doing that in San Francisco. So we took this traveler's mindset and we brought it back and applied it to the city. And so even when we first moved back for a few months, like every weekend we'd go explore new neighborhoods. Even though we had lived here before, we just had such a different
You're a tourist now in your own city.
Yeah, we kind of played like tourists, and every weekend we'd go somewhere different. Like, oh, last weekend we were in Noe Valley. Let's go to North Beach this weekend and just kind of explore. And so I started making content like that, like spend a day in SF and 5 best things and that kind of thing. But I'm still working on like the rebranding. Yeah. And I think I posted something recently and somebody messaged me and was like, oh, I posted something that was mildly political. Mildly. I thought it was more ethical personally, but others thought it was political. And somebody messaged me and she was like, oh, I'm unfollowing you. I follow you for travel. You're a travel influencer. You shouldn't be talking about this. And I was like, oh, my takeaway from that was like, oh, you think I'm a travel influencer? Thanks. I feel like I don't post travel much anymore.
Yeah.
But I have so much content from travel that I've never even posted.
Yeah.
So I literally yesterday was like, okay, I need to work into my content plan. Like, let me start posting again about travel destinations. I almost think I needed a break of like, I don't even want to think about those places for a while. I just want to fully embrace SF. Yeah. And now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I should start making videos again about like all the things in Singapore and, you know, all the great places to go. Cause I love talking about it. Right. I just, you know.
Yeah.
So I think even in branding, I think, which is where you're kind of getting at. Right. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm sure it takes a while, right? Because like you need to figure out also like what you enjoy or don't enjoy given the circumstances now that you're here. Yeah. And you kind of have to like adjust accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if anybody ever figures it out. Right. I think if anything, what I've learned in the last 3 years is I don't know if you ever have it figured out because things are constantly changing and evolving and you're learning as you go. Right. And there's so many things now that I look back and I was saying earlier about regrets that I hadn't done. Yeah. And I just have to remind myself, like, you don't know what you don't know. You can't do the things you don't know. Yeah. Yeah. And now that I know, let's do better. Yeah. Let's, you know, and I look back at my content I made 3 years ago and I'm like, man, that was terrible. People followed me for this. And it's cool because you can kind of see an evolution of like, okay, my growth, my progress, I've gotten better. Yeah. But I'm still figuring it out. Yeah. Even with brand, which maybe is why I don't have the confidence to go around like I'm an influencer, is because I still look at myself and I'm like, man, there's so much I don't know. There's so much I'm still figuring out. And as great as it is to like act all confident, act like you know it, behind the scenes, it's like, no, every day is figuring out, you know, what am I working on today? What are my top priorities? And, you know.
I think that's also part of like growth mindset, right? Like because you always feel like there's something more for you to learn. You always feel like there's something you don't know. And I think that's just part of any space that you're in, I guess. Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned is figuring it out. How do you decide what is, when you explore a place or you're just exploring any content, what is just for you versus what you'll put up on the internet for everybody else? And what are your boundaries, I guess?
That's a great question. I think as I've moved more into lifestyle, especially now since I just started a podcast with my husband that's more couples focused, it becomes a lot more personal in a way. And so like we just did an episode on finance. And so for the first time ever, I shared a video online about like how much we spent in a month, which is something I never thought I would share. It used to be because like, oh, we spend too much. This isn't normal for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And then I think I got the confidence because it was the lowest month we had ever spent. And I was like, if people can't handle this number, you know, it's whatever. So I think I, in general, am such an open person. Nothing is TMI for me. I'm the friend that people can go to and talk about anything. And so I think even with branding and content, I try to think like, how am I unique? I'm a big believer in that we can't be anybody. What's that expression? Like, you can only be the best version of you. Like you're going to be a worse version of somebody else and nobody else can be a better version of you.
Yeah, I love
so
that.
figuring out like, what are you here for? What makes you unique? And that's something that I've been trying to think about in regards to branding. Like what is unique about me that most other people don't do?
Yeah.
And so I think when I think about what I want to share online, it's what are the things that are inherently me? And I think one of them is being TMI. I'm the type of person that like, I want to talk about real things, especially the things that we're all going through, whether it's like money, relationships, dating, anything. Some stuff is taboo. Like I had a lot of people message me and be like, oh, I wish I could talk about money online. Like my partner would never let me do that. And I'm like, I want to talk about the things that other people don't want to talk about. And so even with what I'm sharing online, I don't know if this is bad, but I don't necessarily think anything is off limits. Like I'd be willing to share the worst fight we had in marriage or like my lowest point. I mean, even what I'm sharing now about like content creator stuff, I feel like is pretty raw and honest about like, I don't have it figured out. I'm still learning. Some days I think I'm a failure. I want to quit. I don't know how many people would say that. And so I think for me, I'm like, what can I share that's authentic? And I'm still trying to figure out how do I show up online the most authentic way. And obviously, in regards to what I share online, I think it's less about what I share and more about how I have priorities and relationships. So like when I'm on a date with my husband, there's like certain things that like I just won't be pulling my phone out for. Not because they're too personal for us, but because I'm respecting our time together.
Right.
Yeah.
And similarly, like when I'm with friends, I know somebody who will like pull out a camera and put a tripod out like on the table in a group while the rest of us are eating. And I'm like, that's too much for me. I won't be doing that. You know, and I try to have boundaries about when I record.
Right.
So it's not like invading people's lives.
Yeah.
I think I'm more concerned about that than I am about what I put online.
That's so funny. I think I'm like that as well. Sorry for cutting
No,
you.
no, you're good. I was just going to say, because like at the end of the day, I am who I am.
Yeah.
And I think people will like it or not. And I think something I've even learned this year as like comparison kind of comes into the conversation is I can't control people's perceptions of me. Because sometimes I'll come home and I'll tell my husband like, oh, like, I don't know. I felt like somebody kind of gave me a weird look. Like, did I say something wrong? Or like, did they see something I posted online that they didn't like or thought negatively about me? And I kind of had to realize like, I am not in control of what people think. And even I think to me sharing how much we spend in a month, it was funny because I had a single friend who was like, that's how much I spend as a single and you guys are a couple. And I was like, no, girl, me too. Trust me. We've taken big steps backwards. But then I had people like in Europe who messaged me and was like, oh my God, that's so much money.
Yeah.
And so it's like everybody is coming and viewing things from a different lens. I really can't be responsible for people's perceptions and opinions. And I think that's easier said than done.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
But that's definitely something I'm working on is like, honestly, anything that I feel passionate about, I'm willing to share online. Money, relationships, whatever.
Yeah.
I just have to continuously remind myself, like, if people don't like it, or I think a big one is being misunderstood. I think accepting that people are going to misunderstand you.
Right.
And I think especially if you're really ambitious and you feel called to big things.
Yeah.
You guys asked each other this on an earlier episode about like, do you want to be famous? And I think to a certain degree, if you're ambitious, you're either going to be super influential or to a certain degree known.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe not like Kim Kardashian famous, but like known.
Yeah.
And I think when you think like that, you, no matter what, are going to be misunderstood. There's going to be people who don't like you. Like, I don't know if you guys follow anything about Meghan Markle. She has to be one of the most hated women on the planet for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just can only imagine the things she thinks, like no matter what she posts or what she does, she gets hate.
Yeah.
And I really respect people who can just brush it off and be like, it is what it is, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. How do you deal with like the negativity that people sometimes send you? And it's unnecessary, right? Like sometimes like Rima and I, when we get like comments like that, it's kind of just like, why do people go out of their way to send you negative comments?
Sometimes I see on YouTube someone has commented and I get so excited. I'm like, oh, they have something to say to us, and they're just like talking about our looks, and I'm like,
yeah. I will say that is something that comes really easily for me.
oh wow.
Teach us.
I think that's something that I've heard most people struggle with, or like friends who want to be online but are hesitant to because they're worried about feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a friend who recently blew up as a mommy blogger, like posting about motherhood.
Okay.
And one of her first videos that went viral, she started to get hundreds of comments of people saying they were going to call up CPS.
Oh god.
And it was like, that you have to have thick skin to deal with that. For me, a lot of my comments have either been like racist, because like my husband in my content, he's black. And so like we either get racist comments from both sides, or it'll be like people criticizing me for something stupid. And I think I look at all of negative comments, and I heard somebody say once that nobody happier or more successful than you would try to tear you down.
Yes.
So for me, from the very beginning, whenever I got a negative comment, even now, I look at it and I feel sorry for them. Even like the most hateful racist ones that are saying terrible things for me to, die and all the things, I feel so sorry for them. And I actually like stop to pray for them, because I'm like, that is just so sad that anybody thinks or believes these things. It just comes from a level of ignorance and hatred, and I genuinely feel sorry for that person. Or even like if somebody comments on looks, or like you're so annoying, or ew, whatever, I'm like, you must be really unhappy.
Yeah.
Like I just feel sorry that you feel the need to say that online. And sometimes I'll look at the account, because some people are stupid and don't do it from like spam accounts. They do it from personal accounts. And it'll be like, Jim, father of 3 girls, girl dad. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Jim, you're raising 3 girls and you're saying this about a woman online. Like, I feel sorry for your daughters.
Yeah.
And so I think I look at it that way. Like, honestly, no hate comment is offensive, because you just have to feel sorry for anybody that would spread hate online. Because would you guys do that?
No.
Would anybody do that? Exactly. You either don't have time, you don't care, you're too successful, you're too emotionally intelligent. Like nobody who is worth
that is true.
Cares.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things about like, I think getting to 30 is just like I filter out all these noises, because they're just noises, right? Like it doesn't matter to me anymore what these people say. Let them be what they want to be. Like that's just not going to be me.
Truthfully, they only have the amount of impact that you let them have.
Right.
I got a hate comment recently because I posted a video at it was at one of the hotels that was striking.
Yeah,
I had posted a video that wasn't even taken during the time of the strikes. It was just a video like I had repurposed, and I posted it, and somebody messaged me saying like, I can't believe you broke the strike line to go support this business. Like, I'm sending your photo around to local restaurant owners and we're gonna ban you, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay. And it's just like people have more to say than they really have the power to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh well, anybody who's not for you isn't for you, and regardless of what they're saying. Like sometimes I think it's funny that not many people talk about this as a creator, but every once in a while you'll go look at who viewed your story, and it's funny because every time I look at who viewed my stories, it's the same people, and I've never seen one of those people in my notifications for like likes or comments.
They just lurk.
Yet they watch
just
everything. And I've heard a lot of creators talk about that, and it's interesting because a lot of them are like from high school or and you just wonder, like, are they sitting here judging you? Do they actually enjoy your content, or like what are they thinking? And then I just have to be like, who cares? High school for me was now like over 10 years ago. I'm a completely different person. Like whatever you think about me now versus what you thought about me then, like who cares? And I just think you really have to have that mentality of like, who cares? Do the people who know you respect you? Do they think highly of you? Do they give you constructive feedback when you step out of line? That's whose opinion I really care about. If a close friend tells me like, hey, you need to work on that, I take it very seriously. But if a stranger on the internet says my voice is annoying, keep scrolling, buddy. Like, sorry.
Yeah, that's tough. Have you always been like that? Like, or is this a skill that you developed, like muscle you built? Because I'm so curious.
I think I've always been like that.
Okay.
I was more like, was feisty when I was younger, and not that I don't care what people think. Like I was saying about being misunderstood, and even sometimes like I'll rewatch something before I post it, and I'm like, ooh, like how might this be interpreted? Because I definitely have had moments where maybe I shared a video about SF online once, and I think I said like it was either things to know about SF, like as a tourist to avoid.
Yeah.
And I said something and it was misinterpreted, and somebody commented on it, and I was like, okay, I could see how you took that, and I could see how that sounds bad. That's not what I was trying to say or what I meant. But like I took that as constructive feedback and was like, okay, like let me be more careful with my words. And so now I almost overthink like how might this be interpreted, or is there another? And even listening back to some of my podcast episodes that I posted, I'm like, I don't really love the way that came out or how that sounded. But at the end of the day, it's like if people are going to pick you apart, you can't win anyways. Yeah. And so I do think I have always kind of been like that. Okay. But I think there also is some like logic that I really remind myself. Like if a comment, the only time I've ever been upset by a comment is when I respond and then we start arguing. So I don't recommend doing that. Like if somebody says something terrible to you and you like respond and call them out on it. Right. And then you start arguing back and forth, that gets me really heated. Yeah. So I don't recommend that. Other than that, I think it's like you just have to recognize that people are haters. Yeah. And the higher you climb on any ladder of influence, visibility, success, there's going to be more and more people throwing stones at you. Yeah, that's true. It's inevitable.
I think one of the things, and I've been saying this to Rima, I've been wanting to like have my own accounts where I create content. And the thing is, for me, I have this barrier of, or like this challenge that I need to get over myself is what might people who know me think about me. Yeah. And it's so hard to get over that. So like you've inspired me to kind of be like, okay, the people who care about you won't care, and those who are commenting or like have some sort of judgments on you, you don't care about them. So why let that be the barrier to what you want to do?
I don't know why it is like people from high school, for some reason it's like, what will they think? Right. It's like, who cares? I don't know them anymore. That is true. But I think that's a common thing. Actually, my friend I mentioned earlier that's now like a mommy blogger, she blew up overnight. She posted content every day for like 7-8 months, finally had a video go viral, and she grew 100,000 followers in like weeks. It was crazy. Yeah. Which is one thing. It's like, I heard somebody say recently that posting content is like playing the lottery. You never know which video is going to blow up. Yeah. Which is why the consistency game is so important. Yeah. But yeah, like what she did, the reason I brought her up is because she started a new account and she didn't follow anybody from like her personal life. Of course, like people will find it. Yeah. But it does kind of help that initial get over the hump of like, okay, well, at least they won't see right away what I'm doing. Yeah. And then once you get successful, it's like, who's laughing now?
That's true.
And I think that's something I remind myself. I posted a video recently. I rarely share behind the scenes of content creation, partially because I'm like, I'm not good enough yet. But I did like last weekend, I had a lot of content things I was doing. So I was like, oh, this might be interesting to share. So I posted like a weekend in the life as a content creator. And I posted it on both platforms, Instagram and TikTok. And on TikTok, I only have like 6,000 followers. Somebody commented on it and was like, I can't believe you're calling yourself a content creator with so little followers. And I responded and I was like, well, Jim.
Of 3 kids, 3 girls.
Yeah. I was like, well, my combined 50 or whatever 1,000 followers might not be good enough for you, but the brands are still cutting the checks. Yeah. And so I think like that's another thing too, is like at a certain point you have to put the blinders on, because you know you're going to get to a place where and I think most successful creators say this, they're like, everybody judges you in the beginning, like, ew, you're so cringe, whatever. And then you start getting invited to things and then you start getting paid.
And then they
like,
want to be your friends.
Oh, do you have a +1? And I think it's just human nature to some extent. Like, I don't even think people mean bad. I think everybody might have like a certain degree of jealousy, you know?
Yeah, I don't even know what it is, but I know what you mean. It's just, there's always this sense of like, there's negativity associated with something when people try something new, which is why when we started this podcast, it's so sweet. Like the people who really, like our friends and family, that were so supportive of our baby podcast. It's so sweet that like all the other stuff doesn't matter, because just the few people that we got encouragement from was really nice.
That's really nice you had friends and family support, because another common thing among creators is like the people we're closest to are often the least supportive.
Oh, interesting.
That it's actually like the strangers you don't know that will hype you up the most. Like I have a handful of people that I've never met before that like comment on almost all of my posts.
That's so sweet.
And like I don't have a single friend that comments on all my posts. And on one hand, I think one way you can rationalize that is like, just because you're close to somebody doesn't mean your content is for them.
Right.
Because I have some people I know that post and like their content isn't for me.
Yeah.
Like even my mommy blogger friend, like I rarely see or like her stuff. When I see it, I like it because I know the game of like, you know, the algorithm. And she does the same for me, but like it's not every post because we don't even come up on each other's algorithms because that isn't our lane, you know? And so, yeah, I just have to remember like even my family, when I first launched my podcast, nobody said anything to me. And I was like, did you guys not see it? Like you all watch my stories. Did you not see it? Like, do you not care? Do you not know that it's cool? Or, you know, whatever. And I just have to realize like my parents don't understand. And my siblings like aren't really online or don't, you know, they're not like big online people. So you just have to kind of realize like the people who your content is for is what really matters. Like the people who know you, of course it's great to have support. But like if they don't support you, I don't take it personally. Because like, you know, not everybody wants to watch me talking about travel or couples or San Francisco. They don't all care.
That makes sense.
So I will say like if you start posting more and even with the podcast, like if family stops commenting and stuff, like
don't take it personally.
It's not personal. You know, it's like
for sure.
It's just not their lane of what they want to watch maybe. So I don't want to force people to like my stuff.
That's true.
You know, like I don't want to have to ask like, hey, can you go comment? Help me with reach. That to me is a sign that I'm not doing very well. If I have to like ask for engagement, like of course it means a lot to get it for people who know how the algorithm game works. But if I have to ask for it, then it means I'm not doing a good enough job and I need to work harder and get better.
I love how you like motivate yourself and like hype yourself up. It's like great, and I think that's what contributes to your like consistency and what you're passionate about.
Thanks.
Speaking of which, like what is your like passion and like what triggers you to like want to be in this space? Because it feels like this is where you feel like you belong and want to continue doing this for a very long time.
Thanks, that's really nice. I love that you said that because I do feel that. I think it's funny because when I first started creating content, I was posting like weekend trips, and also I was a newlywed, so I was posting like cutesy, really stupid like couple videos.
We love that. I'm all for it.
Which is funny because whenever a video like that to me was so cheesy would do well, I'm like, why do people like this stuff?
Me.
But for some reason, like my couple content used to like always do really well. And then I started to move away from it because I didn't find value in it. I felt like I was just posting like cute, maybe inspirational things, but I really wanted to add value to people's lives. And that was when I started to post like, here's how to do this with travel and here's how to get a good flight deal, because I felt like I was adding value. And it's funny, now I'm posting a lot of couple stuff again because I'm doing a couples podcast, and I'm like, okay, there's other ways to add value. I can add value like by sharing authentic behind the scenes of relationship stuff. People can extract value from that. So I think it's a reframe in a way. But to your point about like what do I feel called to, in a sense, when I first started posting, I was like, I don't know that I'm going to be a content creator forever, but I do feel like the skills that come with it are useful for who I feel that I'm supposed to be. I've always felt since I was young that I wanted to be a person of influence, not from like a famous celebrity type way, but a person who could use my life experiences and what I've learned from it to help people. So early on I was like, I want to be an author, I want to be a public speaker, motivational or whatever, because I want to help people. I want to take the hard things that I've gone through, that I've had to learn difficult lessons from, and I want to help people who didn't have what I didn't have. Maybe I could be a person that could fill a gap. Like I think to really painful dating experiences when I was like a teenager, and something that I used to blame my parents for, like, why didn't you guys protect me? Like, why didn't you tell me I deserved better? You let me date this guy that you knew cheated on me. And nobody ever told me like, you deserve better. And I had to learn the hard way to like find my self-worth and my identity. I feel like I just took this really deep. Sorry.
No. I was just like, poor baby Alli.
But I think that really was a turning point for me, because this situation happened dating when I was in high school. And it wasn't until my early 20s in college that I like found my self-worth and my identity. And I looked back at that situation, and for a few years I had a lot of bitterness towards my parents because I was like, they knew he wasn't a good person. And all the parents had found out that this guy cheated on me and I stayed with him. Man. And nobody ever said anything to me. Nobody ever said like, Allison, you deserve better. Here's why. And I had to learn that myself. And so I look now at some girls I see, like whether it's online, like there's a girl on TikTok going viral right now for domestic abuse. And I just think like nobody was there to tell them you deserve better. And so that was a first like pivotal moment in my life where I was like, I now have this knowledge about self-worth and identity and figuring out who you are and what you deserve. How could I help young people learn about that? And so I think even as I'm kind of diving into more relationship topics now on my podcast, I'm like, I want to help people, give them exposure to something that maybe they've never heard, even in regards to dating, because my husband and I were so intentional and we knew what we wanted. We knew who we were called to be, and we knew then what type of partner we needed to be that person. And we were so intentional about finding it. And I see so many people like casually dating or like focusing on somebody's looks or how much money they make. And I'm like, some people just haven't heard different perspectives. Right. And we have a different perspective. So how can I put that out into the world to help people? All long answer to say, ultimately, at the end of the day, when I look back on my life, I want to have helped people. And so I think this journey as a content creator is like a great training ground of dealing with hate, dealing with criticism, being willing to be vulnerable broadly, and kind of building that skin and that mindset of like, how can I put myself out there vulnerably to hopefully help people? And so I don't know if 10 years from now that'll still be in the vehicle of content creation or if it'll be something else, like whatever next AI thing comes out or, you know, who knows how it will pivot. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think being a content creator is a great training ground for being a person of influence. Right. It humbles you, teaches you how to have thick skin, teaches you how to be vulnerable. And I think it's great preparation in that sense.
Yeah. That makes sense. Thanks for sharing that, because like I know that that's like very personal. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a TMI thing, you know, ask me anything.
No, it's great. We like want to encourage like authenticity and rawness in our podcast as well.
So it sounds like any entrepreneurial journey is very lonely. And, you know, you're sort of your own boss. You don't have a lot of people to talk to. People may be doing similar things, but you're still like, your journey is very unique. Yeah. And it sounds like it's great because you have a partner who understands that and it sounds like he's very supportive. But like, what's the community been like for you, the content creator community, when you were living abroad versus in SF? Was there a community? Did you feel welcomed or did you not? And how has that changed since you started versus now?
So the question was about like the community and being welcomed here?
Yeah. Especially when you started, I feel like, you know, you were figuring out things too. So you didn't know like there was this forum to go to and all your questions would be answered. You're also like in different countries. Each country has its own rules, especially for travel. Like the logistics are a nightmare. And then what was that like? Did you have a community? Did you have support in that community? And when you came back to SF, what was that like?
Great question. I will say being a content creator is incredibly isolating unless you build friends with other content creators, which I have now, which is so nice. Because while we were traveling, I will say the one nice thing to being in different countries all the time is I never really had anybody online that was necessarily doing what I was doing. So I didn't really feel comparison, because I was kind of one of one, just posting about whatever I wanted to as we went in different places. And I will say, moving back to SF, now that I've discovered there's a whole community here and there's a lot of creators that post similar things of like what's happening in SF and, you know, things to do around town, that sometimes it's hard not to compare. Like, oh, we posted a very similar video. Why did theirs do so well and mine didn't? Or like they got invited to that event and I didn't. Or, you know, it has made it a little bit harder in that sense, because another big hurdle I've heard people talk about wanting to be a creator but not, is they're so afraid of like the comparison aspect of like even just being on social media in general, not as a creator. So many people, it's hard keeping up with the Joneses and seeing like, oh, they're married and have kids and I'm single, or, you know, just social media is such a comparison in life in general. But then as a creator, you're also comparing like performance and like job opportunities. That's been something that was kind of a hurdle at the beginning to kind of get over. And now that's why I mentioned earlier, even thinking about branding, I'm trying to think about like what makes me unique, because I really don't want to be comparing myself to anybody else. I really want to focus on like, what makes me unique?
Yeah.
What do I really enjoy doing and posting about? Like, what is just normal to my life? So like something I've started posting about recently is like, I go to the gym every day at almost 6 a.m. I don't know many people who do that. So that already is like a little bit unique. So maybe I should share my story about like my morning routine. That's kind of unique. And then it becomes less of a comparison thing, because I found like if I just post like generic like things around the city, it's like then it starts to feel a little bit more comparing.
Yeah.
But that content usually does better. So it's like
Constant struggle.
it's finding a balance. But I will say creators here are so friendly. Just at an event I was at this week, a girl who just moved here, I think she moved from New York, she was saying like the community in New York did not feel friendly to her. And she was saying like everybody she's met here has been so friendly. And I can attest, like for the most part. There definitely could be like a little bit of cliques of like maybe people who have known each other longer, you know? But other than that, I would say like everybody is so friendly. And I've just DM'd people that, you know, maybe we started following each other and I'm like, hey, do you want to get coffee? And then you start to see the same people at events over and over. And so over time you like get to know each other, and then maybe you get coffee and you start commenting on all of each other's stuff. And, you know, you kind of become like online friends.
Yeah. Love that. But I'm surprised. Actually, I'm not surprised that people think SF is more friendly than New York. I feel like New York is a very cutthroat city, and I feel like SF is competitive but not cutthroat.
True. Yeah. I would agree with that. It's more laid back here, I think.
Maybe it's a California thing.
The sun helps.
Yeah, the sun
everybody's
definitely
active.
helps.
Yeah.
So I guess like what next for you now that you've gone on this journey of like travel influencing and now you're doing like lifestyle? What do you think is next?
Good question. Figuring it out every day. What's next is I've really loved doing a podcast. So we're up 7 episodes in.
Yay.
It's been really fun. And I think similar to you guys, it's like, oh, well, can you start to monetize? And, you know, if you start getting enough subscribers on YouTube, can you do ads and brand deals, whatever? I'm really enjoying it, not just because it's fun. I think creating long form content is just such a different, it was a learning curve for me. Like even figuring out how do you edit long form content? What's the setup? And then just being able to have these conversations. I love deep, inspiring chats. And so just even with my husband once a week, just us chatting with each other. Yeah. It's just been really fun. So definitely leaning into the podcast. And also like I am trying to rebrand on social media and try to figure out how can I'm so authentic in real life. How can I share that more online? Like what's the best format to do that? How can I share more things that I'm really passionate about? Things that like really pull on my heart. There's a saying that people have like, what could you talk about forever without ever getting paid? Share that online. Right. And I have so many things like that I'm like, how can I better work that into my content? So that's something I'm actively working on now, because I think sometimes I self-audit myself, you know, and I go, look, like if I saw this and knew nothing about me, would I want to be my friend? Like, would I want to follow me? And so I try to look at like, what could I do differently and how could I be better? And I think a big thing I've recognized is I want to be more personable. Like I want more of who I am to be shown up online instead of like some curated persona, which is hard because I think Instagram is so curated, whereas TikTok, I know, a little up to speed here. TikTok is much more authentic, where people will just pick up the phone and almost take a like video. FaceTime.
Yeah.
It feels like you're on FaceTime with somebody.
From the stuff that I have seen, it feels super raw. Like it's not edited. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas Instagram, which is my bigger platform, is so curated. Right. And so it's trying to find like, okay, how can I be more like TikTok-y just in general? Yeah. So that's more who I want to be. So just even now it's so crazy, like 3 years in, like I don't have it figured it out. I'm still learning, and I'm like, does that ever end? I don't know, because each hurdle, you know, you run into different things to figure out and to solve. Yeah. And so I think I'm just kind of coming to the conclusion, like this phase of not knowing, like something I feel like I say way too often is like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know that will ever end, because, you know, I want to constantly be learning. And I think as you do that, more challenges come up and it causes you to pivot or figure out new strategies. And so I don't know if that really answers your question, but essentially just continue learning and getting better. I want to keep getting better every day and keep pursuing who I feel that I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. No, I love that. I feel like everybody's going through that. And so that's very authentic.
Yeah. So. Do you guys think you'll do the Nomad Life again?
Not in that way. Like I would like to have enough money where we could have a home base. And we always talk about being like multi-locational. Like we would love to live part-time in Lisbon, part-time in Singapore, New York.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, I don't know, if we ever get to a point where like our businesses allow us to travel like that it would make sense to like, you know, have little hubs and have little children that are doing homeschool and like working abroad on their schoolwork. I want to have global children. I love that.
I like the idea of that too.
Yeah, I love that phrase, global children.
It sounds so fancy.
International people in the
International people.
When we moved here, a lot of people didn't want to say like immigrant or so on. So they called us international people, which I've come to embrace the term.
I love it.
Actually, on that note, what do you think is the difference? Like, do you see yourself here long term, so you wouldn't call yourself an expat?
So I actually looked up the difference between an immigrant and an expat. And I think it's the country it's the person living in the country that they are in, not how the person identifies.
I'm confused.
Like when I moved to China for 6 months,
Yeah.
I considered myself an expat, not an immigrant, because it was a fixed period of time.
Yeah.
Had I intended to move there permanently, I think I would have been considered an immigrant.
What I've seen is when people move from the west to the east, they're considered expats no matter what, regardless of the intention, regardless of the duration. And when people move from east to west, they're considered immigrants.
And that's because of like a social hierarchy
yes.
of thinking like Americans are better.
Or just the West, even like Europe, right? It's just perceived as a better quality of living. And that's what the definitions are. So
I could talk about that for a long time. I have a lot of thoughts.
Just to wrap things up, do you have like 3 tips that you would want to give someone who is starting out in this content creation space that you would want to like put out there to the world?
Consistency, authenticity. That's 2. What would a third one be? And growth mindset. I think you need to be consistent to be successful. I think you need to be authentic to differentiate yourself. And I think you need to constantly want to be growing, because not only is content creation constantly changing, but the apps and platforms we're using. I met a creator recently. She started like blogging in like 2012. She has like 300,000 followers now. And she's like in her 40s, I think. And I was asking her, like, how have you constantly evolved? Like from Vine to Twitch to MySpace to, you know, like
the graveyard of all the apps.
I mean, literally, like the constant evolution. There's a blogger I follow. She literally blew up on Pinterest in like 2014. I remember I used to see her on Pinterest all the time.
Yeah.
And now she has like 2 million followers on TikTok. And it's because she was able to evolve and grow with the platforms. And so I think to be successful in the long run, you have to have a growth mindset.
Definitely.
So those are my 3 words.
That's very I think those hit like the right spots, and I think that's really good advice for our audience. But yeah, I think we will wrap it up here. So happy to have Alli on our podcast. I think there was a lot of content that is super valuable. So
thanks guys.
Alli, you're a natural.
Truly.
Okay, we'll see you next week. Doodles.
Bye.
Bye.